How you guys doing? So today is not only my picks video for the Eagles versus Seahawks game this Sunday, but it's also a breakdown because there are a lot of key elements that go into this game, that go into who's going to win and who's going to lose and how much of a chance the Eagles actually have, because they have a big one. So I'm going to take you guys back on a trip down memory lane. I know it's not a memory that we want to remember or look back at, but we have to, because let's face it, the Eagles could have beaten this team back in November. A 5-5 versus 8-2 Eagles-Seahawks game at the Link happened on, November 3rd? Or November 17th? Or no, November 24th, actually. The Eagles hosted a team that was coming in off of, really big wins. Again, 8-2. They're competing at that time with, the 9 or 10-0 49ers. Carson Wentz threw 45 times, 256 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks, and had 2 fumbles lost. So in total, Carson Wentz had 4 turnovers. I believe that is the most he's ever had in his career. That's a career high. I believe it tied a career high as well, going back to his rookie season. Carson also outplayed Russell Wilson as far as yardage goes, but Russell Wilson outplayed him as far as big-time plays made. He had 200 yards, a touchdown, and only 1 interception. So, in total, the Eagles had 5 turnovers to 1 turnover against Seattle. So, that's a big loss right there. That's a big way to lose. And you look at the score, 17-9, and you wonder, the Eagles could have won this game. They couldn't manage any drive up until their late fourth quarter touchdown that narrowed the game down. And they had 5 turnovers, which I believe the 5th and final one outside of Carson Wentz was a Dallas Goedert fumble, I believe. Either way, they lost the turnover battle, which, if you look at time of possession, which is won by the Eagles, how fitting, 31-55 to 28-05 time of possession between Seattle and Philly. Eagles won the time of possession battle, which is a big thing that they're going to have to do again, but they actually have to maintain drives and not turn the ball over. So those are 2 big things right there. Penalties, the Seahawks lost the penalty battle. They had 90 yards worth of penalties on 12 penalties compared to the Eagles' 2 penalties for 15. So the Eagles need to stay disciplined, and they need to not shoot themselves in the foot as far as penalties go. But the biggest thing that the Eagles also need to do is sack the quarterback. Russell Wilson in this game back in November got sacked by Philly a total of, wait for it, 6 times. And if you don't believe me, go look at the stats on ESPN, on NFL.com. I triple checked. The Eagles sacked Russell Wilson 6 times to Seattle only sacking Carson 3 times. And I believe a couple of those times he fumbled the ball. So Eagles had to control the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, get to and contain Russell Wilson, and keep Carson Wentz protected. I know it's going to be a difficult task because we're going to have a returning Lane Johnson off of a high ankle sprain, and we're going to be losing Brandon Brooks. At least we're getting one of our guys back on offensive line, but we're still losing somebody. That's huge. The Eagles are a much more connected and brought together team as opposed to how they were in November. At November, when they played this team, they were just then losing Jordan Howard. They had lost Alshon Jeffrey, and they had Nelson Aguilar and Matt Collins still playing, and a Greg Ward that was barely seeing play time. So what does that mean? You look at the team the Eagles have now. Yes, playmakers are not there. Of course they aren't. I mean, come on, they're bench warmers. But this team, over the past month, with these said bench warmers, have looked a lot better than the team that started the season without Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and had Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar as your number 1 and number 2, and Matt Collins as your number 3, i.e., these guys can catch the ball. These guys can get open much more consistently than the other 3 guys, I should say, could earlier on in the season. At the end of the day, the Eagles and the recipe to beat the Seahawks, it was all there in November. They just couldn't bring it all together. They didn't have all the players to do so. Defensively, the Eagles got beat on, wait for it, a trick play. A trick play beat the Philadelphia Eagles at their lowest point. At their lowest point. This was the worst loss that we had outside of Dallas and Miami. And Miami, again, wasn't even that bad overall. It was just the defense that sucked. The Cowboys game was a complete blowout. This was the game that we were both manhandled and virtually gave the game away with turnovers and, of course, letting Russell Wilson connect on a trick play to take the lead. And this isn't the first time the Eagles lost to a trick play either. We lost to the Patriots on a trick play. We lost by a touchdown that game. Take away the trick play touchdown, we were tied 10-10. At the end of the day, the Eagles, defensively, they can stand up to these teams in the playoffs, like the Seahawks, like the 49ers probably. I believe that they can. The Packers, we've already beaten them. The Vikings, that's a different story. I don't even think the Vikings are going to go that far. I believe that they're going to lose, but I'll talk about that in another video where I make playoff predictions. The Eagles and their recipe to win, all they got to do is these simple things, okay? They need to continue to dominate time of possession. They need to run the ball and stick to the run, whether Miles Sanders is 100% or not. Either way, whoever's running the football is going to need to run it a lot, and we're going to have to beat the Seahawks first and foremost at the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. Carson Wentz needs to be protected, and not only that, but Carson Wentz in his first playoff game, his playoff debut, needs to be smart with the football. No turnovers, no fumbling, no forcing passes, and getting picked off. Carson has done a much better job at less interceptions this season. He's only thrown 7, and the last one he threw was against Miami on a Hail Mary. You don't really count that. That's more of a punt, in my eyes at least. So in retrospect, he has roughly 6 turnovers that were truly his fault, trying to force passes in that shouldn't go, or just making a bad read in general. He's only made a mistake passing the ball 6 times. Fumbling has been a different story, obviously. And with that said, he has to be smart and careful with the ball. They got to get him out of the pocket more, open up the playbook, open up everything, and move him around in the pocket. That's the biggest thing. Dallas Goedert's got to step up because we all know Zach Ertz, whether he's going to play or not, which is all up in the air with how bad his injury is. Dallas Goedert's going to be the one at tight end to step up like he's done the last 2 weeks with an amazing one-handed catch and a toe-dragging catch last week on third down, both on third down. He needs to do what he's been doing the past 2 weeks, the past month of football, in relief of Zach Ertz. And whether Zach Ertz plays or not, hopefully if the Eagles make it through this game, he can be healthy enough to play in the divisional round, again, permitting we actually get there. Carson Wentz, again, needs to be smarter with the football. The defense, I barely talked about them because they weren't the issue in the first matchup. They need to continue to do what they've been doing when it matters most, which means if we're on the brink of letting up a lead or anything like that, letting up a touchdown, a field goal, they need to come in clutch, get that sack, get that turnover, get Russell Wilson, I should say, and not underestimate beast mode. Because I haven't talked about this either. The first matchup the Eagles and Seahawks had, the Seahawks ran for nearly 200 yards with Rashad Penny and Chris Carter. Chris Carter being their leading rusher with over 1,200 yards to his name, and Rashad Penny being a really good backup. Rashad Penny was the one that ran for over 100 yards on us in a big-time touchdown. And both of those two players, Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, are out on IR, leaving it Marshawn Lynch and backups to run against us. So you think about that and how they manhandle us with running the ball first. They're not going to be able to do that. They're going to be more one-dimensional, if anything, which means the Eagles have to stuff the run, keep Marshawn Lynch contained, and then focus all eyes on Russell Wilson. They're most likely going to have a quarterback spy, whether it be Malcolm Jenkins or the play caller at linebacker, which is most likely Nathan Gary. They're going to have a spy on Russell Wilson at all times. They cannot let him get out of the pocket. It's either he throws the ball, or you either sack him, or you make him throw the ball away. That's how it goes. That's how it's got to be. Overall, the Eagles can definitely win this game, and I believe they will. The score is going to be roughly like 24-21, 24-17. It's going to be a very close game up until the wire. No doubt in my mind. But I 100% believe the Eagles will win this game. Let me know what you guys think. Those are all the stats that I have to talk about for this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow night when I talk playoff outside of the Eagles. How's that sound? And then, of course, Saturday, Sunday is going to be football all weekend. So I'll see you guys then. Fly Eagles fly. Have a good one.